What if death knocked on your door, looked you dead in the eyes, and said, "Oops, that is exactly what happened to James Webb," a 34-year-old electrician from Cleveland who, by all cosmic accounts, was never supposed to die on a Tuesday afternoon in March. It started ordinary enough. James was rewiring an old apartment building on Prospect Avenue, the kind of job he'd done 100 times before. Routine, predictable, safe. Then a faulty junction box, a split second of distraction, and James Webb ceased to exist. Except he didn't. Not completely. He described waking up somewhere between darkness and light. Not heaven. Not hell. Something more like a waiting room with no magazines and terrible lighting. And standing across from him was a figure that somehow looked exactly like what you'd expect death to look like, and nothing like it at the same time. No scythe, no robe, just a tall, impossibly tired-looking man in a gray suit, holding a clipboard and wearing the expression of someone who'd just realized they'd left the stove on. Death looked at James, then at the clipboard, then back at James, and said quietly and with remarkable professionalism, "This is deeply inconvenient." Turns out the soul scheduled to be collected that afternoon was a James T. Webb, born March 14th, 1991. James had been born March 14th, 1991. The problem, the correct mark is T. Webb lived in Columbus, Ohio, 40 miles away, and had been scheduled for collection following a completely unrelated cardiac event. Death had followed the wrong electrical surge. Now here is where the story gets genuinely fascinating, because what James described next wasn't fear. It wasn't anger. It was this overwhelming, strange sense of calm, like the universe had briefly pulled back its curtain and let him peek behind the stage. He said Death apologized genuinely, with what appeared to be actual embarrassment, and then, before sending James back, gave him something unexpected. Not a warning, not a prophecy, just a single question. "What are you going back for?" James couldn't answer immediately, and that silence, that awful searching silence, turned out to be the most important moment of his entire life. He went back, obviously. The paramedics called it a miraculous recovery from electrocution. Doctors documented it as medically inexplicable. James documented it differently. He quit his job within a week, started teaching electrical safety to underprivileged communities across Ohio, reconnected with a daughter he'd been quietly drifting away from. He said the answer to Death's question didn't come to him in that waiting room. It came to him 6 months later, watching his daughter laugh at something stupid on television. That was it. That ordinary, irreplaceable Tuesday evening moment. That was what he went back for. The Grim Reaper made a mistake. But maybe mistakes made by something as ancient and precise as death aren't really mistakes at all. Maybe James Webb needed to stand in that waiting room, needed to face that question without the noise of regular life drowning out the answer. Because sometimes the universe doesn't send you a sign. Sometimes it sends you the wrong death at exactly the right moment. What would your answer have been?